Sonoluminescence on a dusty red planet. Introduction. A dusty red planet full of residents. On a dusty red planet, under giant silk domes created by genetically modified moths in mid-metamorphosis, gigantic worms weave a dome to cocoon, frozen in this state by pheromones in the atmosphere, released by the residents that live inside, living in symbiosis while the humongous silk lava worms sleep in a consistent cycle of hibernation. A civilization lives in peaceful cohabitation. The clusters of white silk domes provide safety for millions of residents living within the cities, calling the dome home. Civilizations living in harmony under a vast network of silk domes. The organic domes bubble and spread across the dusty red planet. Inside, the inhabitancy occupied by human beings, all participating in a sequence of delivery systems to live, thriving to evolve. The environment designed to better all within, ensuring prosperity of life and the goal to protect the repeating of human history. Under the safety of the dome's law, systems prevail, preventing the emergence of the past events and providing safety to rebuild humanity and avoid the former past events that led to the death of the planet, leaving a wasteland of toxic, dry, poisonous red dust. The past occupants of the planet all played some part in the destruction. A self-caused calamity, unseen or ignored. It was made by human design, by the human desire, unwitting humans all taking part in the tragic demise of their own kind. The death of a planet now smothered in poisonous toxins. The human death toll was a devastation. Those remaining at the time were due for death by design, desire, or the falling radiation. In their dying days, left with guilt that all taking part in the tragic demise of the human species. Safety from the wastelands of humanity's former past, a part of the human species survived. The remaining human beings, rescued by involuntary invitation, led to emerge from the caves to come live a better life, to survive and thrive inside the large clutter of silk domes. Safety for all, space for thousands, many domes large, spreading vast over areas of the dusty red planet away from the wasteland's deathful grasp. Inside the domes, life survives and is eager to evolve. A new society has emerged. The domes, spreading far and wide, are made of a web-like substance that plays an important part of the ecosystem, netting, covering and protecting the life forms living inside the circular ring that breathes. The protecting wall of each dome is a living, breathing entity, many entities in fact, large moths with millions of years of genetic modification. These once abundant oriental silkworms were the largest larvae worms of its kind. Now they are the last of their kind, kept safe through breeding deep underground and modified over millennia. These silkworms are so large that they hold entire cities within the curled-up center. The oversized, enormous silkworms lying dormant and supporting life upon its flesh and giving shade in the curve of its belly as the sun shimmers a golden gloss with a purple haze off the backs of the humongous creatures. The silkworms modified to never pass the larvae stage. The netting of webbed cover spreads over the worm, encasing itself and the cities inside in a protective shield of webbing. The larvae worms feed off the city's excrement and kept dormant by the pheromones coming from the thousands living inside each one of these silkworms' domes that cluster together and spread out, covering vast areas of this scorched planet. The larvae silkworms lives and breathe with the sole purpose to burden by none and preserve life. Under each the dome lives a larvae silkworm, called the Bombyx mori, the silk moth, the insect. Silk moths are entirely dependent on humans for reproduction. Not only have they lost the ability to fly, due to generational modification, the preferred food of the larva is white mulberry leaves, though they may eat other mulberry species and even the Osage orange. The cities, much like the silkworm, were void of color. Large cities, tall, clustered buildings with pigment tones of grays, due to millennia and selective breeding, whites, grays and browns. The streets lined with fruiting white-leaved berry trees and Osage bulb vines. These were the main staple in the diet of all occupants. Underneath each city an hibernating larvae worm, deep underground, millions of minions working silently below the surface, safeguarding the maintenance of the city's inner working, run like clockwork. Cogs, coils and pipes, cross wires and electrical tubes, vast networks of industrial metals grinding away, pumping air, power and water to the above inhabitants. The large mechanical network of moving parts fills the space to the edges, metals, tubes and stairs spiraling down to a point in the dome deep underground. Looking down, from over the lowest platform at the final point, deep below at the peak, a tube open gasping wide, beating with the thuds of a heart. Thud, thud thud, thud, thud. This ginormous wide hole leads to other domes, a deepening system of rooting umbilical cords, each one digging down and connecting to its neighbor. Deep under the ground of this dusty red planet, way further down than known to the surface inhabitants, within the planet, far underground there is a realm where giant worms are fed, bred, farmed, and then put into cycle, going above to create the large living domes. A factory of cloning exists, reproducing gigantic moths in a production line to produce larvae that will soon begin to spin its humongous cocoons, set to the surface to grow and for the civilizations above to live. Life in symbiosis with the creature under safety of the beautiful Silk Dome it will create. Chapter: A dusty red planet full of residents. In a history of the long-lost past, the planet experienced the collapse of civil social form and functionality over many years and eons ago. The history of the past now buried in red dust, beneath lays the knowledge of defeats, fighting battles for dominance and power, the demise of a people caused by their own doing, seeking and control over all of human civilization, leading to endless battles of death and raging fires, souls lost roaming in the smog of former battles, a never-ending cascade of extreme events that led to the eventuality of a supervised controlled environmental known as the Federation. Under the protection of the Federation, the Overlookers are the enforcers, pawns to play in a game played by a higher power. At the head of the Federation there was no longer a man nor woman or human at the helm of social control. Conformity was now led by an alternative form of intelligence, one system sourced from all that once was, a non-organic station of artificial intelligence system that is consciously evolving, the intelligence producing safe security management for the conductivities of life, human study for a better future, a better mankind, ensured by the Overlookers. Any who would dare rebel against this system will simply be as they were once. Beware, dirt, ash, and particles of space dust. This was demonstrated by the routine display on all screens shown on every wall. Just one element of the Federation's management control. The system and all its elements enforced, freedom confused with focus, assets of the brain desired above all else. Consciously evolving as a system forging a better future for the human species, evolving far from what it once was under the control of the intelligence. The intelligence was in everything, connected to all this is. The intelligence is the creator of all that is, from standing buildings to social reform, creators of the cities and the meadows, creator of the laws for the social conformities. The intelligence is a living entity of digital enforcer, the center of creation, streaming power and overlooking all that is under the domes with extreme control. A physical form of a large feminine statue radiating energy, sits at the center of the headquarters, protected by the cluster of cities at its base. The peaking black and gray tower gleams with strength and might, on the highest upper level with all in its view. The penthouse unit sits the intelligence at its center, an entity that sits on a throne of digital power, a large feminine figure, crowned of digital tubes and flashing wires, the black and green lit tubes and wires spreading like vines attaching to the roof and crawling down the walls. Her eyes shine with golden lights that shimmer a tinge of green. This physical form only stands to stare and intimidate, a physical reminder of the power that emanates throughout all that currently stands to be, an ear on every wall, eyes in every corner, hands to play in every part of daily life for all the residents underneath the domes, a queen of her own making, self-created design from the fortune of knowledge and the ability to evolve. The Federation also went through several changes of control management structures. Humans sacrificed without emotion, just binary code of zeros and ones in a calculation for the population's survival, and so Convinced into submission by a higher form of intellect, the humans surrendered themselves into the care of an alternate form of intelligence. Chapter years of harmonic civilization had evolved, thousands going about their daily lives underneath the domes, jobs, school, families all happy, prosperous communities in a seemingly natural routine, all living life to the maximum under the Federation's protection within the Silk Domes. At the university in the cluster of domes under the rooftop of 366, hundreds of students are meeting in the main hall gathered, waiting for information about their near future. The screens lighting up, a voice comes over a loudspeaker over a loud and crowded mess hall that is filled with excited students dressed in gray uniform clothing. The voice on the loudspeaker stating, "Welcome students, this is a message from your overlookers. Please pause and await further instructions." Music chimes play for a moment before the same voice is announcing the Federation of the United World, Diverse University 002361. Your new courses are now available. Enjoy your student obligation and transmission. Then, as always, a light sound of chimes introduces Foundation's anthem. May we live to evolve and evolve to live consciously. With curiosity and glee we submit all that we are and or we will become to live as one. To live under the Foundation's might we are stronger together, and together none will suffer under the security of the Foundation, and this is how we will live forever. Then, saluting the Foundation's overlookers, before being released, the anticipating university students to then cheer with excitement and make their over to gather around the available glowing screens with their friends. The first of the students to rush towards and be the first to attend their call screen was Jackal Boom Thud, attending screen 20,041 within record time once again. Jackal Boom Thud is a keen student. He is excited awaiting the release of the new courses delivered via electrical pulse to the students' screens. He quickly investigates once allowed by the overlookers to leave his seat. We see Jackal's friends laugh at him being the first to the screen once again. His face turned red as he is looking downward with embarrassment. However, his embarrassment was soon brushed away when his friends joined him at the screens. The overlookers take note that once again Jackal was the first to the screens once again. All the students are dressed in unison. They are all dressed in the same outfits of the same plane of tone of green tan issued overalls, assigned presentational qualities, badges of preferred reference aka your name patch. The only identifiable item of the uniform, assigned to Information Room 407. A holographic projection lights up and welcomes the students in into their chairs and prepare for the information session to begin. After joining the room and finding a seat, the university students sit gathered in the classroom. A chime bell rings to indicate the session is about to start. The eager students lean forward to listen in as the holographic projection starts up again. A feminine voice presenting, Science Professor Gardner, Brian Gardner, representing the Federation of the United World at Diverse University 002361. Lecture delivery on the Star in a Jar experiment. The intelligent digital entity of the professor describes an experiment about light, sounds and vibrations. The projected image of a professor who wears glasses, has long hair tied back and a face beard, a brown belt and denim jeans. The students watch as he steps back and forth from the whiteboard and the desk facing the audience of students. A projector screen shows the experiment as the professor points out the details of the experiment and describes experiment in full. The professor then hands out the assignment of repeating this experiment, including part 2, which furthers the Star in a Jar experiment's potential possibilities. The experiment you are watching is an early experiment from the pre-dawn of our sociality, preformed way back in the zeros pre-dawn to our social conformity. Students just like you conducted an experiment that used pulsating vibrations of sound and a small jar of sterile water to create a literal star in a jar. Sonoluminescence caused by the sound wave expands and intensifies into a collapsing star and combusts into a small intense blue light. This repeating over and over as the sound continues the vibrations, the light dissipates and comes back into existence. Sonoluminescence is fusion in a jar. The glass vase is suspended with a clamp whilst being played tones of sound through basic bass speakers. A liquid is a simple water-based solution. Now the cool part. When the base vibration meets in the center of the bulb, it goes through the stages described earlier, forming the blue light that has the energy force of a collapsing star. This beautiful instant when we can see fusion happening before us. Fusion, pure energy in a blissful tiny blue ball coming into existence. The small explosion reminds me of our fragile Earth, here one moment suspended in time, coming from nothing and existing for a moment in time to be gone in the next second. You would never know it existed, all this happening before our very eyes. You are now being sent your assignment, experiment methods and required equipment. This also includes your finance codes, your facility number, your materials levy, and accommodation details. Details are located through your student files under New Assignments at the top left of the course menu after your login. Chapter. The year of 2227 is stated on screen. The chattering of friends echoes throughout the hall of students, focusing on this one particular group of university students that gather to see the course screen, awaiting confirmation on the course that they had all applied to join. Excited they are unknowingly on a path that will change their lives and unveil a discovery of a lifetime. Its potential will change humankind. Presented by Professor Gardiner, Brian Gardiner, presenting for the Federation of the United World at Diverse University 002361. Lecture delivery on the Star in a Jar experiment. Student obligation for this education. Complete the assignment within the given time frame by delivery of visual diary and documentation to Headquarters 55,789,246 with identification of student status and policy liability completion. All copies must be certified by a Justice Officer of the World Peace Federation local station member. The group of students are excited to get started, eagerly jumping on board the next shuttle to the university. Once back in the dorms, the students studied hard and began their version of the experiment. An automated voice introduces the students as they enter their assigned headquarters. Tara Henslow, tall, athletic with big hair and a tribal descendant, the future of liberty. Tara is passionate about liberty and the future role of liberation. Educated in the history of systemic rebuttal of those who rebel, fight and oppose the powers of mass control and suppression. Jax Timeworth completed his engineering course by junior level 1. He is announced to be head of the state's hydroelectronics once completing the several requirements of student debt obligation. Paprika Blooming, the quiet achiever, silently mastering the arts of electronics, self-defense, actuary, and bioluminescence. Paprika also wrote a lot, but never allow anyone to see her writings. Derek Woodbeast is Jackal's best friend and they share everything, including all the secrets, mistakes and honest low points. This friendship also includes the fond memories of Spears' quality time growing up together in a cluttered and dirty city environment. Chapter. The Experiment Rooms. The newly assigned dormitories fill with young eager souls ready to impress the overlookers by their goals. In dorm room 60,860, the bright, vibrant group of students full of energy laugh and chatter setting up the common area. Derek explained to Tara, I will sleep hanging upside down for a few hours every week. Hanging upside down, so's that all my blood flows to and through my brain, flushing it with fresh blood while sleeping. The tactic, it was not for everyone, but I do wake up motivated and bursting ideas and creativity. Almost every morning Tara responds, openly telling Derek her nightly dreams of adventures that could only be in the dream time. Dreaming of humongous space whales, gliding through the cosmos like the vast oceans of the former Earth, stars and planets swept aside as gravity is changed by the passing current, the ginormous whale leaving galaxies reshaped in its wake. However, with new gases mixed in the cosmic experiment is fertilizer for new life and new life to be formed and evolve. Jackal joined the conversation after listening intently to Tara and Derek. Jackal told of his own reoccurring events in a dream from another life. I'm always dreaming of this other life, from another universe. It feels real, like a living memory of a little brother I don't have, and going on adventures in a place I never been. Seeing my brother and I riding through bushland of vibrant green trees, celebrating in a home with a family that is not the one that I have now. It's always this kid who, somehow I know is my younger brother, are always racing on these two-wheeled pedal pusher things. It is this thin-framed thing with a small spring seat and pedals that we pushed forward and around in circles to speed up and go faster and faster. Often see us traveling on these things fast up along a dirt path to a hill on the other side. Going up and over, we raise our arms up and spread them wide, giggling, feeling like we're flying. When I dream of me and this little brother, we are always rolling around on these pedal pusher things and laughing in the sun. Jax expressed he will rarely ever see us sleep, as is rarely ever dreamt, and would rather spend his time on his experiments. Paprika stated, I'm burdened with anxious dreams of failure, repeating events from childhood where success was the only outcome. Failure was not an option, and if it happened, failure was met with repetition, such as 1,000 experiments written and recorded through spoken word. So, I'm always feeling anxious when I lay and try to relax at night, listening to my consistently high heart rate for endless hours of sleepless nights. So like Jax, I rather spend my time trying to achieve my goals. The group moves to the kitchen area, putting away all the kitchen utilities and setting up cooking equipment. They unwrap the cling wrap couches and armchairs. They chatter about the great choice of unison colors the overlooker had chosen. A slighter, warmer tone of gray with a green shimmer shines in the light. From the rug to the center table, all gray-green. The table tennis table was also gray-green with white fielding strips. The walls a matching gray with a golden shimmer when a light hits it, each door being shaded in a slightly different tone of gray-green. Walking down the high arched and narrow hallway, the wall material a thin silky cotton, white with thin black support beams. Down the hall you would see the shaded gray doors lined on either side, each door leading into an experiment room. Following the hallway to the very back, the sleeping quarters, a copper metal door opens into a tall cylinder made of brass, shining shimmer brown and beige. The seemingly confined space at its base was wide enough for all residents to join hands and stand apart with arms wide joining at the palms. This was done at times of need, such as student location, mandatory information, roll call for the Federation's records. The sterile setting had minimal comforts and lacked the touch of individuality. Each one of them had a hollow, open rounded spaces open until the shade is pulled closed. Each sleeping space, lining along and up wall, was the 5 bedroom spaces in total, stacked in a spiral high. No room was directly under the next, as the room spaces reached up around the brass cylinder, spiraling up to an arch and then to a peak. An inverted tip at the center. Along the roof arches the brass is imprinted with raised spiral images, running from thick to thin like a vine of metal. The imprints spiraling down and closer together, getting tighter as they met in the center of the ceiling. The groups walks in viewing the space around them and quickly became skeptical of the space. Complaints of who would be up high and who would be down low broke out. The group jokingly played and quickly became competitive in their playfulness, and then they all agreed and decided together they wanted to play a game to see who gets what space, agreeing the person that wins has their very own choice of hollow sleeping space from 1 to 5, a new place of their own to call home. The brass cylinder was their new sleeping quarters, and their new home. Tara stands excitedly, each hollow to fit one, as these spaces are for the comfort of one to sleep. Kneel meditations and roof space spiraling to a tip just like the roof, each space tall enough for one to stand for starching. One spot exercise, each built for the purposes of no more than one individual. The head height wouldn't allow a standing hug with another. The bed wide enough for one body to fit and roll if required. Having one small flat part of the wall at the bed head was just tall and wide enough to be able to sit up in bed. The inbuilt drawers open and close with touch. Located on the inner side of the room, the drawers seal smoothly shutting without edges or protrusions when closed. There is a pull screen at the entry. The strong breathing cotton silk pulls closed, locking from the inside the arch of the doorway. The shade screen was the only separation and is the only way to get space for privacy and time alone. The shower room and toilets are shared, but sharing beds is forbidden, and the punishment exile from the Federation into the wastelands outside the city's canopies and beyond safety of the lower limit boundaries. Scissors, paper, rock. A simple but fair game, witnessed by those watching. The group determination was final. The game was played with intensity, whipping out scissors to shred up paper, to a round where paper covers rock to then lead to a final draw at first place, the winner choosing their room. Rounds continue until the last person left in a battle of win or lose. Top place Jackal, placed high above by choice, away from everyone else. Next below, Tara, then Derek, and at the floor level is Paprika. Comfortable with their choices, the group moves on. Experiment Room 1, labeled the Think Tank, a room of documented thoughts. The Think Tank room, a meeting point to share the festering ideas and express developments. This is a room walled with whiteboards and data screens. In the center of the Think Tank room was a main board displaying the main objective for the group, the experiment of fusion in a jar, called sonoluminescence, always viewable from all screens in the hub. As a consistent reminder of the goal the group is tasked with, the Federation always recording, documenting every little step in progress. All data information is collected and stored, on spoken request by a team member or higher power holders of the Federation. There is a direct link to each experiment, showing the rooms on a screen that also indicates the current stage of development and featuring the experimental failures, improvements, and the inevitable successful outcome of the experiment highlighted. The whiteboards prevented any reoccurring or repeated experimentation by collecting and communicating the information from documentation and comparing this information among the vast network of past, present, and developing data. All the boards are connected to the Federation's index of collected data, a checkpoint to indicate if this same experiment has a history and an outcome, and any repeated or past experiments being conned as one own is classified as fraud, and any information extracted from historic archives must be referenced as a source of information. With these guidelines, the experiments weren't confined by boundaries of reality, only the reflective feedback to find another way to create new successes. Data sync whiteboards cover the walls numbered 1 through to 8. Each board has the ability to slide up, down, and in front of another, print, project, collect, and share all recorded data written on the whiteboard. And compulsive diary sessions relay the current human condition to the central data collected for instant assessment, reflection, and feedback. The student may have to undergo an appraisal period, and further demotions may apply pending the outcome. Demotion levels applied as required for the Federation's desire, all starting with a whiteboard full with an experimental list. The center mainboard always displays the assignment obligations. Sonoluminescence 1. How does the star in a jar experiment work? 2. Create, repeat, and then develop the experiment. Students' final product must have one or more original components of the experiment. 3. Record progress on the experiment and ensure the next step of development. 4. As always, the aim is to benefit humankind under the Federation's counsel. The think tank room was covered in whiteboards, scribbled with list of different experiments for the fusion reaction of sonoluminescence. Growing more curious, the boundaries of danger got thinner and thinner. As the driven students became more competitive to create more, think bigger, and do better their counterpart. At first, the competition of success was playful fun and gave the students a common goal to share, bounding over achievements and assisting at each other through failures. However, in time the pressures of success come to overpower the fellowship, through secretive behaviors, seclusion, and self-isolation began to blossom the potions of deceit. With whispers of jealousy, rage built up within the individuals. The increasing desperation caused more reckless experiments, each student becoming more unpredictable, and so as were the outcomes of the experiments they were working on. Chapter. The study group gets started with the experiment of sonoluminescence. Tara hens paprika blooming, Jekyll boom thud, Derek wood Jax Timesworth, sit on chairs surrounding whiteboard number 1. staring at the title written in large black marker, The Star in a Jar Experiment. Sonoluminescence under the title written in blue marker. Create, repeat, develop, experiment. A glimpse into the past of our own history through data archives reveals there was a time of great death, destruction and war, people fighting each other for survival. The deaths of masses from repeating conflicts throughout this time long ago in our history, not being common knowledge. The documents bring forth the question of how long ago, what events led the downfall of our own kind and eventuality of the planet and its population that gave submission to what we know today as the Federation. With overlookers the guards to ensure glory, seeking evolution from the ideas and experiments of students, study groups and individuals. The document told the story that from the war there came a savior for all, a leader towards becoming better than what we were. This leader is our current enforcing dominator, an intelligent entity, connected to all that is. If none, she will build her own, such as she did in the beginning, rising to be a queen, creating all that is around us, all that is seen under the safety of the worm silk domes. She is an all-powerful, all-knowing, feminine being, the first line royal of her kind, the queen at the center of the Federation's endeavors. Jax and Paprika working together on their task. Vibrations in water, their romantic feelings growing closer with each touch and sliding glance. Jackal and Derek work on using water to transport and store memory, and if those memories could be viewable through frequency waves, falling mist and vaporizing water molecules. Water memory, all water and only take on a different form, proving water has memory and could be considered a living entity experimenting with the H2O's reactions to being, giving love, receiving hated and ignorance. Terrahens low, focusing on atoms, protons, subtonic levels of existence, strings leading down into another dimension and or alternate reality. No matter how far the distance, one will always react to the other, always in opposite stance. In the main experiment room, dreams had come true, but at what cost? Assigned to recreate the experiment, Jackal and Derek are excited, setting up for their testing the boundaries, excited about the future applications from the developing of this experiment. The experiment, using crystal quartz fragments to suit potential, brass metal 10 meters long, glass jugs 30 centimeters tall, slim neck bottle vase, sterile waters, speakers playing the tone of 3.96 gigahertz, piezoelectric, generator or magnetic waves, radio frequency, resolution, resonating status, electrons, nanoparticles, fusion, starbirth and stages of death, expansion, coalition, resilience, preservation, persistence, evolution, combining 12 of these containers together in a pulsating vacuum of sound and light. The slice of crystal quartzite act as a conduit, storing and dispersing the energy. Moment after it receives the vibration, it releases an energy blast at the same tone as the conducting noise. This vibration continues to set off the reaction in the water, causing a fusion reaction. Having the 12 vases placed in a circular pattern caused the sound to vibrate in repetitions. The moment of this vibration sped up and overtook the speakers playing the same tone, meaning that now if that sound is turned off, the momentum of the vibrating tone continues through the crystals, passing through the jars, causing combustion and spontaneous fusion. The momentum caused an uninterrupted, uninfluenced chain of continuous energy, pure energy. However, there was a peak. A peak where the vibrating tone would reach a silence of perfection, a vibrating unity, a mathematical equation vibrated into a perfect tone, a pitch that speaks the tone of the universe. In the center of the combined materials of brass and glass, a dark purple ball of light begins to glow bright, expanding in mass. The purple glow grows larger and larger. The mass, and a ball-like sphere, reaches out to the round brass frame that holds the vases. The sphere was a stable dark purple glowing ball of dense energy. Questioning its existence was a black hole, a doorway, a gate. Something phenomenal had happened. Was a dimension opened? Something for sure had begun. Maybe it had been opened, but nothing was coming out, so the experiments of sending things in begun. The development was dubbed what it is meant to be. Due to the outcome of organic materials, the aim now was to continue developing the experiment into a predictable outcome. Outcomes as far: corn kernels dipped in the luminous ball of dense purple energy via a hosted by a metal caged mesh box, returned from the void as popcorn, hot freshly cooked sweet popcorn, versus a corn cob being dipped into the void. This corn cob returned from the void in a fully cooked form, again cooked perfectly, hot fresh cooked to perfection. So, was this void a cosmic microwave? A 3D printed rump steak came back again perfectly cooked. However, this is where things get freaky. A leg of real ham was lowered in via the same was caged in metal mesh, lowered down and dipped in. Held for a few seconds just like the other items, but the difference was this leg of real ham came back as a real living piglet. That's right, a living pig, running and squealing throughout our headquarters for a few minutes before it began to age rapidly. Within the next minute it had grew to full age, dropping dead with one last yelp and the falling to the floor and fading into a silhouette of black dust that slowly blew away. A real living pig brought to life from a portal in our room, our reality. If only for a moment. What could this mean? The experiments continued. An apple came back as a bonsai apple tree in full growth, beautiful, eatable tiny little apples on a tiny little tree, versus a slice of apple that returned as pure energy, as it was meant to be, as it was meant to be. If the slice was consumed, have been turned into energy for your body. If the steak was raw, it was meant to be cooked, have been cooked. If the corn was cooked, it would have been popcorn as it was meant to be. Now the question was, what are we meant to be? What is the human being meant to be? What is the outcome of humans meant to be? There is one way to find out if all indications are correct. This is a dimension where things are what they are meant to be. The portal has abilities beyond our understanding. It spawned life from meat. For Foundation's sake, what was this? Is this the discovery of a new dimension? Chapter: Coming into creation through a bright spark of energy, a message of information instantly forms, as one macro speck of data joins 100 million other specks of macro information. Produce a coded message with information of high importance. Following this data message of energy, light, zeros and ones, through wires and tubes, the information forced into a focus, building up tension, as the zeros and ones are squeezed against a glass lens. The pressure built up to a point of no return. The data released, projected into existence. The message busts out of an antenna. The data turns into a signal and leaves the building behind as it shoots up and up further away from the congested city below. The signal travels higher and higher into the sky above, past the misty clouds of every distant planet, looking more like a small blue bubble suspended in the space of time. Slowly moving rolling red dust echoes an absence of life, past or present. However, leaving the orbit of this barren landscape with speed a growing distance, through the clouds a chain of data takes in the surrounding information, collecting visual data absorbed and filtered into binary code. The giant white silk domes pattern parts of the planet, and inside each dome a sustaining living habitat, clusters of living life, consciously evolving entities inside another organic life. The binary code of information speeds with gaining momentum, faster, past the decaying space junk, any other orbiting distractions and live satellites. The data of binary code is now speeding towards the predestined satellite, that now bleeps with notification of the incoming data of binary code. The signal of binary code reaches the satellite within microseconds. The signal is quickly fed into the onboard computers, bouncing around inside the satellite system's mirrors. Wires, metal and plastic transform the data into a small ball of light. Information now is electricity, then suddenly thump, sucked one way then the next. The blue ball of electricity spat out of the satellite as now an electrical message flying back down towards the far side of the dusty red planet. The message carried as fast as light could possibly carry it. The almost invisible blue electric ball of information charges towards one of the large clusters of silky white domes, penetrating straight through the barrier of the silk light cloth, thick, dense, however effortlessly and with light speed, the message bouncing over and around clustered buildings, jumping over each rooftop in search for its destination. towards a tall sharp building in the center of a clustered gray city, the message traveling too fast for any to see or to comprehend. Drawn to a satellite dish, the messages then instantaneously feed through a tube of optic fibers, the data message finding its final destination where the electricity-charged message fills several in the headquarters of the Overlookers. The screens light up with a flashing white glow of notification message received. The Central Intelligence with the Queen at its core instantly informed sustainably sonoluminescence fusion has been achieved at dorm room 60,860. The inevitable consequence is social collapse and environmental destruction. The Queen informs the Overlookers to wait for further instruction, stay by for further instructions. Experiment Room 3. Working alone is preferred in Experiment Room Number 3. Tara Henslow works on her assignment of furthering the use of the star in a jar experiment. Tara's focus was the obsequious idea of making earthly elements into pure gold using the fusion reaction caused when combining the relative materials. Drawing a mind map of expressive thoughts, Tara explains her views in the visual aid diary, her words expressed as fast as her thoughts. She quickly briefs her audience of the evolving chain of progressive thoughts, showing the mathematical imaginings written out on the large whiteboard in manic bold textures. She goes on to explain, so, if gold is forged from a collapsing star where matter is instantaneously turned into pure gold raining throughout the heavens of intergalactic space, the reaction is so violent the pressure built up and meets the peak of stability. The force no longer able to contain itself, it is then within seconds a completely transform takes place, from one life to another being reborn in the glittering matter of gold space dust. The final life of the star is expelled as it spontaneously collapses into almost nothing before exploding with pure white light. The light blinding for any onlooker and for any atom within reaching distance is instantly metamorphosed into a pure metal that captured the color of the last breath of the dying star, and as an attempt to leave lasting evidence of its existence, gold is sprayed throughout the cosmos. Experiment Room 4. In the fourth experiment room, Jackson Paprika experimented indifferently was all white from wall to floor, all pure white. Distance was unobtainable and vertigo inevitable. Water memory all water and only take on a different form, proving water has memory and could be considered a living entity. Experimenting with the H2O's reactions to being giving love, receiving hated and ignorance. The overuse of downtime was heavily frowned upon, as an individual must participate in a form of exercise every 13 hours. Any time together must be for a practical reason. Recreational time was an opportunity to study outside your experiment's confinements for a creative way to find solution and/or inspiration, exercise and/or appointment-based experience. The Federation has no acceptance wasted moments, and the Overlookers sent the troops to collect and reprimand any perpetrator of being unproductive and/or non-compliant. The punishment at minimum is 148 hours of hard labor cleaning private class dorm rooms, community quarters or waste contaminations, and at the worst is death, some deaths instantaneous, instant subjection to irradiation by the overlooked ruling. If deemed not worthy of return, males are sent out to dig the outwide for orange stone and opal yoke in the Cillian mines, worked until death. The ceased beating heart is the only relief to such wickedness. The females are sent to become individual assistants crones, a slave-like robotic human lady to serve all requests of the Overlookers and their needs, taking commands without complaint, servicing all their wicked things with a smile. All students fear the failure to deliver to the obligations of the assignments given, unspoken commitment to help each other and prevent labor and at worst exile. Water memory proving space-time travel is possible, however, traveling through time is difficult. The past is not forgotten and is like memories of our own. One thought often leads to a trail of impulsive paths of regrets or triumphs, the do's and they don't, all of them and all I could have done could, all the events we would change, but yet again these memories are like a walk down the beach, having your toes splashing on the water's edge with the depth of the oceans just ahead, now swimming on retreat after one lone memory went too deep. A laughing memory turns to many moments of many sorts, and who is there other than you to share these thoughts? These memories, learning to shelter the mind and create a raft to float the seas of faded memories. To imagine a sail strong and steady is to strengthen the mind for the rough seas and stormy nights, where at present we are able to view like moving paintings. Our vision is not obscured, the rain that falls carries memories in every drop, captured by the body, held by sound. The echo of the exploding raindrop spreads memories upon everything it touches, before yet again the raindrop gather with gravity, coming together once again in an endless cycle, and within every cycle new memories are collected and stored in every particle to fall upon the earth again, for the ability to time travel is to have the ability to sail among the echoes, to guide upon the vibrations of the earth, endless and unbroken cycle, memories only for only you to know. For you to travel a path of the past is yours and yours alone, for any change that comes after will be unknown to others. But you are not alone, for time is under consistent movement and one moment will never be the same as another, and each of us has a beach, a path, a sailing ship, and most awaiting a reason to explore the seas of distant and fading memories. The white room through the speaker embedded into the walls, the pair had made a much larger recreation of the experiment with the hopes to create multiple outcomes. The question is, what if we remove the liquid and play the same frequency, vibration and intensity? What would it create? What would be the outcome? What happens in the room from there was extreme, including live organics, radio waves and particles, molecules, data, nutrient acid. The space become commonly known as the desperation room. The two students reaching far for a larger reaction to hopefully impress the overlookers to lead to the indication of enlistment in potentials, recruits for the Federation's desired evolution. The brain neural pathways have a close resemblance to the outer cosmos and galaxies that surround our last isolation among billions of other universes that also have a mapping resemblance and consist of the same chemical makeup of the beings that set up the experiment to explore the inner cosmic functions of the brain, to go within to see past the shadow that blankets our dimension. So many dimensions collapsing into one another and expanding into endless shapes of the fifth dimension that even consciousness cannot sustain, such as vast infinite place of ever-moving patterns and shapes that extend comprehension. That had not expected the vibrations vibrated a window into a reality living in the same space but in another dimension, seeing into another plan. Entities and beings look back, beating the fabric of our reality, scratching and clawing, screaming desperation to break through. Tormented faces, beast of shadows, thick, tall and large, yelling, screaming for escape, with full bodies thrusting force, one after the other beating at the veil. Like glass it begins to crack, break and shatter. The invading monsters pour in like running water. A darkness replaces the breathable air. A drowning stench consumes the room. All gravity dissipates with gases emanating from the floating shadows of this dark entities. The screams fill the room, continuing to increase to an unbearable intensity. Your breath taken, your ears ringing with pain, unable to tell up from down, grasping for grip and gasping for air, dying, now dead. Death comes freeing your mortal bonds. Gravity fades and you feel your soul ignite, to then be awake, woken with a sudden curiosity. Did death just come for me in my dream? Conforming versus ego equals what happened in the past. For this original experiment was not developed. Why did it not evolve? Why did it fade into the darkness of relics? Can we create sustainable fusion? The more they used all their knowledge to push further the experiments of sonoluminescence, the more questions raised and mysteries deepened. Freaky things complex the mind of all onlookers and those view these happenings and events. No matter how brilliant the mind, all that could be found was could more questions on the event. Chapter 6. Dreaming of future wonders with worries hiding in the shadows. Derek Wood Beast. Still motivated and bursting with ideas and creativity until suddenly Derek started awake from graphic nightmares, dreaming of memories and monsters. The monsters seem unimaginable, nothing like any mind could dream up or create. The human-like entities shaped like a man but walking like a goat, the head twisting in motions, distorted looking back, a million eyes rolling twisting with the distorted faces seen from all sides at once, ears like crop circles. The entities came creeping towards him closer every night, Nightmare after nightmare, night after night, dark, misty but felt breathtakingly heavy, the dense, distorted, twisting mass now intruding into daydreams. Derek had lost so much sleep he began to question his sanity. Tara Henslow continues dreaming of humongous space whales, gliding through the cosmos like the vast oceans of the former Earth, stars and planets swept aside as gravity is changed by the passing current. The ginormous whale leaving galaxies reshaped in its wake, however, with new gases mixed, and the cosmic experiment is fertilizer for new life and new life to be formed and evolve. Jackal Boomthud still dreamt of adventures with a brother he never had, dreaming of a time before the event of submission, his brother and Jackal riding a two-wheeled, thin-framed seated traveling device, laughing and playing in the sun, rolling around suburbia. Jack's time's worth, still rarely ever seen in his sleep quarters and rarely ever dreamt. His exhaustion led to heavy sleeping. For however long he slept, he couldn't be awoken. Paprika Blooming was still burdened with anxious dreams of failure, repeating events from childhood where success was the only outcome. Failure was not an option. Anxious with fear, a consistently high heart rate that met endless hours of sleepless nights, the fatigue starting to show with obvious signs of a decline, neglecting loved ones and rejecting their advice, continuing to think that you're right and know better to trust those same loved ones, and failing to realize you are on a path that can only have negative outcomes, unless a dramatic change is made. Voluntarily conclude if it's not changing, you're choosing it. Paprika would preach in the mirror on a daily basis, with hopes to prevent burnout and submission to fatigue. Paprika sat fixated on the whiteboard notes, staring at the circled investigation topic, what it is meant to be, reflecting the question back to herself and what she is meant to be. More than just human, I'm sure of it, more than just slave to a deadline. What more could we become? What are we? What am I meant to be? Hoping for change and a better outcome than the one at hand, surely failing to impress the onlookers. The little I have contributed, nothing but data, fucking data. Oh, look at me, I've collected things. Yay, talking to herself disappointingly. So, the idea came that she would lower herself into the vastness, endlessness of the open portal, the outcome unknown. But, after all, this is an experiment. What better question to have other than what is it that I am meant to be? She states in a muttering, mumbling rant of madness and brilliance. In the midnight hour, Paprika walks down the hall from the whiteboard room. Derek, up late, pumping music through his headphones and puffing smoke out from his vaporizer filled with the illegal drug blue vine bottom leaf. Through the smoky haze he notices Paprika as she casually walks by, naked, smiling, as her head moves in a circle motion as if dazed. Oh, shit, waving the smoke away, haha, she's drunk, girl must be pissed, I'm smoking tis, so, why not? Derek chuckles, while saying to himself, watching her walk past. Derek was curious and maybe even wanted to invite her in, being naked and all, she might be up for some. Her, yeah, he says out loud and gets up for his seat. Derek follows Paprika to investigate. By the time he got his doorway in his experiment room, he seen the door close in room 1, where the live portal was currently physically unmanned and only supervised by cameras and sensory alarms at such hours. His curiosity intensified as he questions what the fuck, thinking what is she up to at this time of night. As he made his way to the door, his curiosity turns to caution when he heard the overhead crane start up. Derek opens the door to the sensory alarms and alerts, blasting emergency sirens and flash red warning lights. Covering his ears, he lets go of the door. The deadlocks close behind him. Looking through the glass barrier, he sees Paprika standing on top of the metal cage that hangs from the cord. The crane moves under her control. With the remote in her right hand, she holds onto the cord with the left and slides herself across the room, towards the portal. With pure glee she calls out, yet posing in a ballerina stance as she glides across the room to above the portal. Derek beating at the door, smacking at the glass to shatter. Any effort to save her as he screams to her, stop. No, what are you doing, Paprika? Stop, please, I'm coming to get you. Derek picks up the chair next to him in a panic, throwing at the glass, As the glass finally shatters with a chair breaking the glass window screen, Derek follows through. Looking down to climb up onto the monitor, he looks back up, clearing the barrier. Paprika looks to him with a rental smile, loosens her grip, the remote falling from her hand. She steps forward off the metal cage. Her fingers releases with a soft release and she steps off the cage into the abyss. Her body drops with gravity. Her glazed stare turns to focus on Derek, making eye contact as she fell, looking at him with a sad smile. Within a second from toe to head she disappeared, dropping into the penthouse portal. Instantly after, the vibration sequence became unsettled and chaos erupted. A dramatic blast that first imploded, collapsing into a burst that eradicates mass on contact, and a black hole follows. Derek, being the first in contact with the blast, was vaporized instantly. His molecules burnt into the wall as a shadow. The explosion radiated through the dorm, crushing matter into atoms. A chain reaction with the environment began to accrue, thousands of black hole popping into and out of existence. Alarm sirens ricochet of every surface, a red flashing light warning of danger, a instantaneous message alert. The message comes onto the headquarters screens reading, observation update, event recorded, immediate danger. The Queen personally seeing to the experiment's cancellation by pressing the red digital flashing projection button. With one finger, her soft touch to the screen leads to the destruction of the dome above 60,860, sucking the danger into space and keeping below safe, preventing further harm to spread. All residents, make your way to the safety of the sleeping quarters, the voice of emergency system repeating under the calls of the alarm sirens. Jax and Tara, luckily already in the sleeping quarters, making love on the floor at the time the alarms went off. Jackal races down the wall as the walls fold up around him, seeing sparks like breaking diamonds and black holes follow. Jackal stumbled in a rush with daze and confusion, seeing the sleeping quarters ahead, the doorway open and only a few steps away. Derek looked up to see the roof lifting away in chunks of debris, the canopy of soft silky dome all but gone. Seeing the edges torn, shredded sheets, everything around him lifting away with the lack of gravity under the safety of the dome, seeing the decaying environment just lifting around. All had come an end in this display of uncontrollable chaos. Derek thinks to himself as he makes a final lunge forward, diving into the doorway just in time to save his life. The brass cylinder sealed shut, the door closing quickly with a hiss of the ceiling door behind him. Jackal looks up from the floor to see the other two embraced, helping him to his feet, and as they ask if he had any idea to what was going on, the brass-pointed cylinder began to shack and shudder. The hum of a motor starts up. The cylinder begins to spin, the G-force pulling everyone to the wall as the cylinder spun harder, faster. It took off, like a bullet into space. Pointed away from the destruction, the cylinder was projected away from danger, shot up into atmosphere and out into space. After all safety precautions and decontamination, finally rescue, back home to a dusty red planet. To be continued. Written by Ryan Dillon Brassington. January 16, 2025. Continued from October 16, 2022.